Let's bring on Brad Garrett, ABC News crime and terrorism analyst. Good morning, Brad. I guess it's a very appropriate moment to talk about all the things that the Taliban now has at their disposal thanks to us.
So let's start maybe with telecom companies in Afghanistan. They have telecom mobile phone companies just like we do, which translates, Wayne, into records of phone calls a person has made, where they made them from, who did they call, who did those people then call. In other words, the short answer is building a network of people that have worked for us and who those individuals are connected to. There's the biometric side of this, where we're talking fingerprints, maybe facial recognition, that the Taliban may well have in their control as we speak to further identify people that worked with us. You know, you add to that the thousands of weapons they've been able to seize, our military gear. I mean, I'm seeing people in pictures they look like U.S. Marines with the same body armor and helmets and night vision stuff, and carrying M4s and other weapons that we supplied the Afghan military that now the Taliban have.
Now, it's pretty easy to figure out what they can do with the weaponry. And there's a lot of it, right? I mean, we're not just talking about a few rifles and maybe one tank. There's rifles, there's those vehicles, those MRAP vehicles that can withstand IEDs. Is it also true there's a ton of like grenade launchers and other stuff like that we left behind?
Probably. Because remember, Wayne, that the whole idea here was that the Afghan military was supposed to have all of that because we trained them to use it and maintain it. But, they collapsed in 5 minutes, which for some reason is a surprise to other people. For those of us who study this stuff, we weren't surprised at all. So, there's that side of this. But yet the short answer is that's where this is coming from, is the stuff that we had originally left and planned for the Afghan military to use.
I remember some stories, maybe going back a couple of months now. They were talking about our guys doing things like taking the treads off of tanks and shredding them and destroying some of that stuff, and the Afghans being very upset, like, hey, we could use that. Do you think they tried to deactivate a lot of this weaponry before we left, or because they didn't think the Afghan government would collapse so quickly, they didn't really bother to take care of much of it, and that's why there's so much left over for the Taliban to enjoy?
I'm guessing the latter. I mean, obviously, if you believe that the Afghan military are still going to be maintained, you would certainly leave them all of that equipment that we bought for them. So my sense is that there is a vast majority of it still intact, which obviously is troubling, less so for U.S. personnel, because I think based on what's going on at the airport, my guess is we'll be out of there long before the end of August, is what will happen within the country. Because you've got these like suicide bombers today, which appear to be ISIS-K and not the Taliban, which is probably right. And so now they're going to use that equipment to fight within themselves, which, sadly is the history of Afghanistan.
And the other part of it that you talked about, the personnel records, the biometrics, the phone records, would you expect there to be a significant and obvious and public, if you will, purge, for want of a better word, where the Taliban uses that information to identify, they would probably call them collaborators with us, and go through and make a public showing of dealing with them?
It wouldn't surprise me. Do I think they'll try to or will co-opt some of them to work for the Taliban? The answer is yes. But others, I do believe, let's face it, we've been fighting the Taliban for 20 years. as a vicious, enemy. And anybody that would help them basically is not helping the Taliban. So, yes, I do see that. And in particular, I mean, let's face it, Afghanistan's the size of Texas. So can the Taliban in Kabul control what the Taliban does in the outer reaches of Afghanistan? The answer is probably they don't. And the commanders on the ground there will probably do whatever they choose to do to a large extent.
All right. Man, what a tough situation. Thank you so much for that extra information and that perspective. And we'll probably talk to you again soon because I don't think things are going to be resolved over there. Thank you so much, Brad. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Take care.